Yeah, we both started beefing, didn't we?
Yeah. I had the same sort of experience on psilocybin. I had my first sort of like big mushroom trip, and that was like I think I just sat there and cried for about 2.5 hours or something,
Really?
but not in a bad way. It was like crying with pure joy. I think it actually, I almost kind of like felt like I'd lived my whole life without ever really feeling pure joy in a way. I mean, I've always been happy. I've lived a happy life, but I could always feel like almost like the depth of capacity to feel that feeling was always kind of limited. And I just, that trip was just the most transformative, like special experience I've ever had.
Wow.
And sort of like just, there were like kind of a beam of pure love and joy. You know, the trip kind of sends you into weird places.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing images of my father when he were a young guy, because he kind of like abandoned me when we were about 12 years old.
Right.
So, but I seen him as a young man and just kind of trying to do his best and not really knowing what to do and stumbling through life and just, I suppose, I mean, I kind of always had compassion, but I think I've kind of like had another level of just kind of letting go of all that type of stuff. Like crazy experience.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Seeing it from a different point of view.
Yeah. There were a number of different things like that I'd been holding on to, and it just showed it in a kind of, almost like in an abstract way, where showed it in like a different scenario, and then you could just process it differently and just let it go, really. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy experience.
I love hearing profound stories about like psychedelic trips and stuff. I've had one myself.
Really?
Yeah. And I continue, and I don't mind openly saying this. I've had a little microdose this morning before this conversation.
Yes, I had one yesterday.
Did you? There we go. We're nice and open on this podcast. It'd be interesting. I'll dive into that a bit more with you, mate, because first of all, Craig Tetley, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
We're leaving that in because we got off onto the front foot. So you know, the deeper we can go, the earlier, the better for us. So yeah, we'll keep that in. Yeah. Welcome to the episode,
Thank
mate.
you very much. Thanks for having me.
Craig, this podcast for us is centred around human connection. Just like our brand, we build saunas now as well. That's all the same thing, and it all ties in. So I think a nice place to start is explaining to the listeners how we're connected.
Yes.
And it's, without you knowing, I think you're going to be quite a pivotal part of my life moving forward. Personally, because I've just started my journey into the beautiful world of Jiu Jitsu, and obviously you own dreamart in Bradford.
Dreamart Bradford, yeah.
And heavily experienced in the art, shall we say?
Yeah.
What sort of level are you at on the grading the belts?
I'm a black belt 3rd Dan, so that kind of means a black belt would probably take somebody about 10 to 12 years, and then the Dan grades you get are every 3 years.
Right.
So to be a 3rd Dan, that would have been 9 years at black belt.
Wow.
So I'm probably about 10 years in now.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been best part of my life in martial arts since I was about 19.
Right.
I started at 19.
Amazing.
What drew you to the sport?
I suppose if I go back, like I'd lived quite a violent upbringing. I got moved onto a rough estate when I was about 8 or 9 year old. I got pulled from a school where I was very comfortable, and I had a really nice set of friends and everything kind of going well. And my parents split, and then my mum had family over in an estate called Biley in Bradford, which was basically just like a jungle. And I got kind of thrown into them schools and went through like bullying and fighting and all sorts of stuff. So it was always kind of like something that was necessary, because I was a kid that was completely ill-equipped to deal with that kind of experience. And I just basically lived with fear, you know, just a fear all the time. I couldn't even walk down from my mate's house when I was like 14, 15 without feeling fear, because I lived in essentially it were a jungle. There was no safety there. I actually used to walk to the post office with my mum, and I remember holding the pram to signal to all the other kids around the area that I was with my mum, and I was safe at that moment. Wow. But that was the type of environment I kind of grew up in. So
high stress.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially for a kid that well equipped, you know.
What kid is equipped though, unless you choose to be equipped, you know?
Yeah.
You're not, are you?
No. I mean, my brother actually kind of dealt with the environment a little bit better. He was much more of a bold kid, just more kind of confident, willing to sort of like stand up for himself, whereas I were kind of like a little bit more, a little shyer and a little bit more sensitive, and bullies can just read that off you. So I became a little bit of a target, you know. Had different areas of bullying, and I mentioned my father sort of like left when I was 12 years old. So in and around that time, I got into karate and kickboxing as my first sort of movement into some sort of martial arts. And my mum and dad sort of like took me around a number of different gyms and different martial arts and whatever else, and I picked the one with the black gis. They all looked like Cobra Kai with a big hawk on the back of the gi, and I just thought they were cool. So I ended up going into karate and kickboxing, and like most kids do, I gave it up for some crazy reason. I think the reason was they just do the same techniques each week. Like, oh yeah, that's how you get good at anything. Yeah, but
it's boring.
Yeah, it's boring. Yeah. So then that became a reason I gave it up. But it was actually a great thing. I gave it up and I went into basketball, and I became fanatical about basketball, or obsessed. Everything I did and thought about was basketball. But it enabled me to get very, very good at a young age. And I started playing for like men's teams when I was about 15. And I got, like I said, I got really good, but that gave me a load of confidence. And when I was in school, even though I was like this kid that was a target for bullying, from the sort of like 9th year to like the 10th year, so around 13, 14, I'd imagine. So around 14, I'd become like this kind of like little basketball star. So all the kind of cool kids were like, oh, Craig's good, you know. And that built a load of confidence. And we were a little bit of a turning point, really. And then then it all came crashing down when I was 15, when I got jumped in Queensborough. I got jumped by a couple of guys and tried to give me a good hiding, and came to a point where I'd gone back up to the school to play basketball the next week after being beaten up, and had come down with a load of guys and were like hiding in this alleyway with baseball bats. I had to hide in the field, and that kind of like killed my basketball dreams at that point. But started my necessity, I suppose, to get into some kind of combat arts, because that just produced a load more fear. Now I'm like walking around as like quite a confident and outgoing 15, 16-year-old, but like, you know, and getting into situations and being quite able to handle them physically, but emotionally and psychologically struggling. And then kind of realising that I needed to get into something. And then at the age of 18, I got into a huge fight. A guy had been bullying my younger brother, and my mum had kind of like got involved in trying to steal a chain off of him, and it said something quite nasty to my mum. So I went out looking for this guy, and it ended up, he pulled a knife on me, and it all sort of like transpired of this massive fight back at my house where he threw a breeze block at my head, smashed the windows. I had to come out with like a baseball bat, and a massive fight, all black, my eyes all pulled up, and I gave a lad a good hiding, but realised at that point I needed to get into something. I was living this kind of crazy life, and at that point I actually read a book called Watch My Back by Jeff Thompson, and that was transformative. I actually bought a book called Roy Pretty Boy Shaw, you know, the sort of like London gangster for my father-in-law, and he loved it, and I read that and I loved it.
That was for all like Lenny McLean,
that type of genre, which I loved it for all the wrong reasons. You know, I'm living that kind of life, and I'm looking up to these kind of hard men, as such. And I went down to Waterstones and I was looking for a book that were of that genre. And I picked up a book by Jeff Thompson, and it's funny because the cover was of Jeff as a nightclub doorman. It was a doorman of repute, and he was holding a knuckle duster on the cover. I was like, this is the one for me. And I picked it up and bought it.
My guy.
My guy. But luckily enough, Jeff wasn't about that. He'd been through the doors in Coventry through the 80s, where it was polled as the most violent city in Western Europe. And was a doorman of repute. And when you read his book, I've trained with Jeff, and I've become an instructor under Jeff, and I've known a lot of his instructors around him, and like all the stories that are in that book are incredible, and they're all just the tip of the iceberg. This guy is like somebody who's seen incredible things and been through incredible things, like physically and violently, but has gone past it all, and let it all go. And he's gone into self-development and self-improvement and living your dreams and hard work ethic and controlling fear and all this stuff. And I essentially found my customato, like Mike Tyson found customato, and I found Jeff Thompson, and he became my mentor. To this day, I still try to get down once a year, and he does like a walk, and you just go on a walk and have a talk with him and whatever else, and he's massively pivotal. And through that, I was like, right, he were training in martial arts full time, and I was like, I want to get into it. So I found my first Thai boxing class, and from that point on, I started trying different martial arts, and started then with Jiu Jitsu. I think somewhere around then.
What were the biggest lessons that you've sort of taken from him up to now?
I suppose the biggest lesson for me is the control of fear, or trying to control fear. I think that was something that plagued my life, and I didn't have any idea how to control it. I didn't even understand what it was. You know, people don't really understand the biological processes of fear. You know, your body senses a threat is going to start giving you a certain amount of adrenaline so that you're able to deal with whatever situation your body perceives, even if that's just a conversation with your wife that you need to have or something. The nervous system doesn't know the difference. It just sees it as a threat, and will send different degrees of adrenaline. And you know, you'll maybe have a slow release. So when I ran the doors, my whole life for 6 years was a slow release of adrenaline, and it's incredibly hard to deal with. It's, you know, we'd work sort of like Tuesday to Sunday, and then you'd have a day off, and then it'd start again. And understanding that through Jeff's work allowed me to be better able to deal with it. And then you have your extreme dumps of adrenaline, like I was saying before. Like, most people have never even experienced what that actually feels like. The large dumps of adrenaline that even professional doormen fear them, because you're on the knife edge of being able to handle them. You know,
debilitating.
Debilitating.
Yeah.
Debilitating. I suppose if you've never felt it, then you can't be prepared for it.
I can totally relate to this as well. You know, in terms of what you're saying there about the fear. I got bullied when I was about 11 years old, and I totally froze, like completely froze. I couldn't, even though I felt quite physically capable of things, because I started playing rugby at a young age, and I was dealing with kids that were bigger than me, but my body would not allow me to go there.
Yeah.
And I was really frustrated with myself, to the point where I thought to myself, I need, for my own personal growth and journey, I need to learn some sort of combat and put myself in a situation where I can't get out of it, because I want to overcome that.
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to it.
Yeah.
So, have you competed as well then? So you've learned all the skills and the tools of how to deal with fear. Have you chosen that path where you?
Yeah, I competed. I had one boxing match when I did boxing, because I've gone through a number of different martial arts. I started in boxing, couldn't get an ABA license because my eyes were so bad. I had to have laser surgery, and I ended up getting an ABA license, and I had one fight which I won and retired undefeated.
Get in. Well done, champ.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then I went into judo, and for your grades in judo, you got to compete. So I won different competitions at different grades, got up to like a brown belt, had some serious injuries along the way, and went into Jiu Jitsu, competed at white belt, blue belt, purple belt, British championships. Never really kind of enjoyed it. I'd spent 6 years on the door, so the kind of fear aspect of it were great to experience it again in a kind of competitive scenario, which was great. You can't get enough repetitions at handling fear. But in terms of any sporting goals, I didn't really have any as such. So I kind of like left it alone at about purple belt. But yeah, I think it were all for me. It all started with self-defense, and that was always kind of like the goal, to be able to better understand my own ability to deal with and handle fear, and competing really were kind of like a vehicle to along with the doors, help me deal with all that stuff. But past that, yeah.
It's almost like you've constantly lent into the stress intentionally, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially.
Is that to overcome your feelings?
I think that fear is always something that's always going to be a persistent challenge. But you can get more desensitized to certain varying degrees of fear. And I suppose that was the goal, to be desensitized. Mm-hmm. So something like this today is wildly uncomfortable for me. Actually, just
is it?
Personally speaking, like speaking out loud and speaking, like public speaking was probably like, I couldn't even imagine doing it at one point. And then I decided to be a jiu-jitsu instructor, and now I do it every night.
Yeah.
But within a safe, a comfort zone, which is my academy, my students, speaking about something that I know and I'm reasonably good at. And then I come into a situation like this, and there's unknowns, and I don't, am I going to stutter all over my words? Am I going to say too many times? I probably will. Yeah. But yeah, but them situations on the door allowed me to better handle these things. We'd stand on a nightclub door, and we could have a situation. I once had a well-known gangster come into the door at about, I think we started about 5 or 6 o'clock, and this situation just blew up. Manager came right out to us straight away and said, if this guy comes and approaches you, walk off the door. This guy I know had tortured and murdered somebody. It's like a serious... there were about 30 guys in this pub with him, and he were after a rival gang. Yeah, so we drove an hour over to this small little town, and it were just me and my friend, and we walked into this pub, and usually on a Sunday night, we were just, it were a nice pub. Kids would get a little bit too drunk. You'd have to like ask them to leave. Nothing really happened. We'd stand on the front door and have a chat and a coffee and whatever else. And this one night we walked in the back entrance, walked through the pub, and saw this group of guys, and we were just like, what the hell is going on here? Straight away, like red alert. Straight away, massive release of adrenaline. Walk out to the front door. Manager come running out. He says, literally, and manager never says this, he's imploring you to actually keep his pub safe. He says, if these guys approach it, he says, walk off the door. Walk off. I'm like, right, okay. And they all started like coming in and out, and like really aggressive and really intimidating. And they'd said one of this gentleman's name, and they'd said his first name, and I went, no way. And then he walked back out, and they said his second name, and I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, this is serious. And anyway, at this point, he thinks that our door team is a part of the group that he's after. So we had a situation for about, I don't know, maybe about 30 minutes. It was probably 5. It probably felt for like 30 minutes where all these guys were just around me and my friend. And They were just questioning us. Nothing we could do. Like, you're a doorman, and I'm a doorman. Without any false modesty, I was an excellent doorman who were headhunted and sought after, and I was very good at it. And I were in a situation that completely outleagued us, that we were just completely just, what do we do? And it kind of like all simmered down a little bit, and this guy were offering to fight me for a $5.
Yeah, sound. Let's go.
He was incredibly drunk.
Make it £6.50.
Yeah. And he jumped in a black Land Rover and he drove off and he said, I will be back for you two. And he drove off looking for this other group. And for about 6 hours, everybody in this city were driving a black Land Rover, because everybody watched a black Land Rover drive around corner and we'd be like, boom, massive amount of adrenaline again. And we had to stay on the door and we had to sit in that for about 6 hours. And it was an incredible amount of adrenaline that you're feeling. And you had to get into diaphragmatic breathing, really calming your exhales. You had to keep a hold of this situation, because everything wants you just to walk off the door. Everything wants you just to say, right, I've had enough of this,
Yep. Rhonda? Going to say on that, Craig, so I'm guessing there's no difference between the emotion and how you're feeling in that moment to someone being, let's say, in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the different situations, but how you feel internally, I'm guessing there's no
difference.
There's no difference, is there?
And that's what Viktor Frankl said. He were a Holocaust survivor. And he said if you've been in the depth of deep depression, you know what it is to be in Auschwitz. He said human suffering has a capacity. And
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Great book.
Great book. And that's the kind of thing with the doors. It's like dealing with fear at such a high extent, like professionally, 6 nights a week. If you compete regularly, you know what it is to be on the doors. Essentially, you know what it is to even though the doors, there's a risk of losing your life. I mean, I had friends I had one friend who was shot. I had another friend who was attacked with a samurai sword. I had a guy who had his throat slit on the front door while I was on the front door. This was an extremely.
You witnessed that.
We'd actually closed the doors because there was a huge fight and they were trying to ram the front doors with the barriers that we had outside. So we managed to kind of like fight off this situation and close the front doors, and then whatever happened outside, boom, guy got his throat cut. So I took control of one door where a guy had died the night before. He'd got stabbed, and I was head doorman on that door in Leeds. So it wasn't no messing around in that employment. But when I competed as well, especially the pre-fight nerves, is exactly the same. It's the same. You don't quite get the adrenal dumps. You do get adrenal dumps, but not quite to the extremity of the doors. I've never felt that. But yeah, it's these situations. The brain can't really tell the difference, can it? It's like what they say about visualization. It's whether it's visualization or practical practice. The mind don't really differentiate.
It's often the anticipation, isn't it? It's the anticipation of the thing.
Oh yeah,
that's causes
what kills people most. Yeah.
Like anything, and that can be in a good way. It's looking forward to a nice meal, or it's actually dreading something as well. It's the anticipation, isn't it?
Well, I think that's what like Jiu Jitsu and combat sports does. It teaches you really a certain amount of self-sovereignty, the ability to control the self. It's going to present you with so many different challenges over such a course span of time. If you stick, say, jiu-jitsu for, let's say it's 12 years to get a black belt, you are going to be presented with so many different personal challenges, and it's all going to be unique to you, whether it's injuries, whether it's frustrations, whether it's embarrassment, whether it's whatever it is. Like, so many of my students go through things where they come to me and I've got to talk them through it and give them different coping mechanisms. But when all's said and done, they will have will have developed a massive amount of resilience, a massive amount of an ability to control that internal dialogue. You know, and there's different things I'll teach from breath work, meditation, all these kind of soft things, gratitude, all these soft things that people just see as being weak, but it's really not. They're the powerful things. Studies coming out on gratitude at the moment. A gratitude practice decreases the area of the brain that's responsible for fear, anxiety. You know, if you can, and fear doesn't, like Tony Robbins speaks about this, it's like fear and gratitude don't exist together. So this morning before this podcast, I knew I'd been nervous. I know what my body responses is going to be to something like this. So first thing I do, I wake up and I do a gratitude practice. And as I'm going, I'm thankful for this podcast, for this time to speak to you guys, because fear can't live with that. So if I make this all about gratitude, being in this amazing place and doing this, then fear doesn't exist here. And then I do I pulled up outside and I just stayed down by school and I did a Wim Hof breathing session. I'd already been doing cadence breathing on the way over. You know, it's all these different things that you can learn.
I love it, mate. Honestly, I love
better deal with
this. This is where, like, it's really refreshing for maybe people who are watching or listening to see someone like yourself who, let's be honest, certified killer, if you want to be. But to
Optional.
be optional. If you want to go there, you can. Yeah. But there's such a polarity in Jiu Jitsu. What I've found.
Yeah.
Where, well, obviously it translates to the gentle art, doesn't it? Yeah. And I love the savageness and the calmness. So like, we're rolling after a session with you, and you might put some really soft jazz music on while everyone's trying to tear each other's neck off. I'm just like, this is wild, but I love it. And I don't know, like, can you explain that sort of? It's a contradiction in a lot of ways, isn't it? Like,
yeah, absolutely. It's one of them things with jiu-jitsu that, like, they are, anybody who gets reasonably good at jiu-jitsu, with strangulation techniques, you can kill somebody and kill somebody dead quickly. Like, if you hold a choking technique on for 30 seconds, a minute, the person's dead. And you train to a high level to be able to do that, not just on people that don't know how to defend it, on people that do know how to defend it and are good at defending it, and you can still so that level of confidence, where essentially it is my choice. Like, we laugh about it, but it's my choice other than consequences. Take the consequences out. I don't want to spend my life in prison or anything else, but just on a physical sense, it's my choice whether I kill somebody or not. But that kind of confidence just makes people the nicest people. Jiu-jitsu's filled with the nicest people. It's like all my friends are jiu-jitsu guys. They've all got this confidence where they don't have to posture, or they don't have to front, or they don't have to try and pretend to be something, or they've got that innate confidence that's just built in. But they also have the ability to control themselves. But they have to be able to control themselves in jiu-jitsu. It's like you get that guy who goes, I couldn't do jiu-jitsu because I'd see red, and, well, you wouldn't. And if you did, that'd be the worst thing for you to possibly do in a fight anyway.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation. We've just got a quick message for you. At the heart of this podcast, Dan, is human connection.
It sure is.
And now it's amazing for us to say that we also build fully bespoke saunas from design, build and install that also promote the exact same thing, mate, human connection. There's a theme here.
There is. And all built to last, like we just keep saying. We wanted to provide products that last a lifetime, not just for a matter of months. Yeah. That's exactly our ethos and our message. So we wanted the products to match that, and they are the highest quality, the highest form of timber, the best quality heaters, and tempered glass to suit.
Wow. We've not spared expense there, mate. If you're thinking of upgrading your space, whether it's your home, business, studio, wherever you can fit a sauna, basically, we can build it for you. So visit us website on immersesaunas.co.uk and we'll take it from there. We look forward to building your dream sauna shortly.
Oh yeah.
And the person who can control their emotions and be calm like a predator, that's the person to watch, not the person who's, I've got such a temper. They're the ones that are just going to that temper is going to last 10, 15 seconds and then you're going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
And then that trained killer's just going to...
You get humbled quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, people are they develop this this confidence and ability to control themselves. And essentially a room should be safer if you've got people like that in it. And that's what a Jiu-Jitsu academy is. It's safe because everybody can control themselves.
Yeah.
And hopefully from the top down, respect and certain values should be projected throughout the academy so that everybody can, people fall in line with. And you have academies where that doesn't happen. The top guy can maybe project some other values that goes through the academy. So it's not just like it's not it's jiu-jitsu, so it's a great environment. 99% of the environments are fantastic because the jiu-jitsu instructors had to get to that point themselves.
Yeah.
Where they have been humbled or they have been embarrassed or whatever it is. It's like, it's always going to teach you a lesson, I guess, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
My first rolling session that I remember is I went into an academy and I were a doorman. I were lifting weights. I were very physically capable. I were probably thought a little bit too much of myself, and I rolled with a young green belt kid, and he rolled me for an armbar. And we have this in my academy where people come in with into an adults class with my kids, and like Hayden, for instance, who's 15 now, just nearly turning 16. And I've got ones who are younger than that. I've got Harry, who's probably 14, and they will armbar grown men. And the man will act in two different ways. Either one will go, that's cool. That is so cool, I've got to learn it. And the other one will go, their ego, not even them, their ego will just, all these illusions they had have just shattered and they can't deal with it. So we'll have people who will go one or two ways, really. That's what you'll find. And the ones that go that way, they generally, or even the ones who can spiral, if you can just pull them into a nice environment where they don't feel judged, then I'll go over to them and go, do you know what that kid is? And he does that to everybody, and don't worry, he did that, he'll have done that. This happened to me. I'll do them speeches a number of times at the end of a class if I feel that somebody's had that type of experience, because we want people to, it's not like just attracting the people that have got a healthy ego. We want the people who have got an unhealthy ego to develop and create a healthy ego. Gain control of that.
You know what? The thing I love about it, mate, is everyone can get into it at a different stage and level of their life, can't they?
Yeah.
And it looks different for everyone. Like me, I'm 33 years old and I've only just started my first session. But for me, I've developed so much in myself in so many ways in the last 5 years or so. But there was one thing that I still had a bit of insecurity about, and that was I don't know how to defend myself.
Yeah.
And that beautiful sort of reckoning has led me to this. And then I've found that it's not just self-defense jiu-jitsu, it's like a way of life.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it straight away. And some of the stuff you talk about, it's far more than just learning techniques and
100%.
rolling on a mat. It's like it's holistic.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff you talk about, especially with the kids, which I love, by the way. I've seen a few videos of you talking about, don't be afraid to be bold, to be different, to stand out.
Yeah.
In the class yesterday, you were talking about turning negative situations into positive situations, and all this talk, it's just it's perfect for me, mate, in my stage. But how do you sort of carry yourself through it then in terms of off the mat as well. It's just like a lifestyle, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, I think Jeff I always go back to Jeff.
Yeah.
But Jeff gave me he trained me to think about martial arts as taking the lessons. So like he would go for a walk in a forest. He goes down to Coombe every day, which is a beautiful place in Coventry, and he walks around and he'll take lessons from the trees, and he's got that kind of mindset where if he's in jiu-jitsu as an example, and he's going like we were yesterday, we're going from a negative situation where you're getting attacked, and how we can stay calm, defend yourself, create like little stops, have a reversal of the circumstances so you actually get to a more neutral position, but having the mindset to then go into a positive situation and end up in a dominant situation. I gave the example like during COVID, for us in the jiu-jitsu industry with all the academies. I was part of Gracie Barra at the time, and I was part of a WhatsApp group with maybe 100 school owners, and everybody was just freaking out. I mean, they just stopped physical contact. How do jiu-jitsu schools even function? And there were no like end in sight as such, and there were no like suggestions of grants or furlough schemes, so everybody's just freaking out. But luckily enough, all these guys are jiu-jitsu guys, so they all go straight into problem solving mode, and they control themselves, and everybody comes together, and they're like coming up with different things and whatever else. But fast forward to the end of it, the worst possible thing for us turned out to be the best possible thing. But in the time, like we all knew that as jiu-jitsu guys, because we do that every day in jiu-jitsu. We do that every day. We make little mistakes, and you end up on the bottom, and you know that. You don't even worry. You're like, you know that there's a way to take this like an alchemist and turn it into gold. And that's what you teach yourself. So then when you're outside of jiu-jitsu and you're going through this journey, if you can have a mindset where you're looking to learn all these little lessons, and that's why I do pull out the core concept of a core lesson. And it's not just, for me, it's not just about teaching technique. The arm bars and the triangles are all great. They're all wonderful. But there's something that you can, all right, so it's cool after I learn it. But all the other stuff, you can't let it go. You can't let like that ability to problem solve. It's like I used to get a bill through I grew up in a very kind of scarcity mentality. You know, we never had enough. We're always like money were an issue, and I grew up like that. So going into young adulthood, I'm like, I get a bill through the door, and I'm like throwing a wobbly like a toddler, and my wife's having to calm me down. It's like, oh, it'll be all right, and I'm going, oh. And she said to me a few times, like, you panic, and I don't panic. But then I had to be honest with myself and like listen to what she's saying to me and go, you know, she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I started to, and around that time, like Jeff is giving me all these lessons as well, and I start to look at what my mindset is in jiu-jitsu. My mindset in jiu-jitsu isn't panic. Somebody takes my back, I don't panic. I problem solve. I know part of that problem solving mentality is to go calm, is to go ultra focused, deal with the initial problem, buy myself some time, you know, and then inevitably turn it into gold.
It's going to be okay.
It will be okay, yeah. And then over a course of a period of time, I changed my way of actually functioning in them moments. I used to be in an airport, and every 2 seconds I'd be looking at the board. Sam would be like, "Will you calm down?" And she'd go to the toilet, and I'd be like on hot footing, like, "Oh." We'd never missed a flight once, and I realised it in myself, and I started, "No, you got to stop that." Having said that, 2 of my family members have just missed flights, so now that anxiety is creeping back in. I have to control.
I think
that.
it's been programmed, I guess, in high stressful situations though as well.
Yeah,
you know, and it's having those huge dumps of cortisol and your adrenal system being fired up a lot.
Yeah,
just from walking down the street. You know,
yeah.
It's kind of they're feelings that are abnormal, really.
Yeah.
And I guess you can carry those little traumas all the way through, and it'll spread
yeah.
into other areas. So it's a case of repetition, innit?
Yeah. And I think it's but Jeff gave me another lesson at one point. He gave a story about Abraham Lincoln, who used to have a self-inventory. He used to just go through every part of his character, and he'd write down pros and cons, and he'd be ultra honest with himself. And he'd just go through the cons, and he'd look at them, and if they're true, they're true, and he'd go and systematically start to deal with them. And I learned that very early on. So I'm very, very ultra honest with myself. I'm not somebody who's going to go like, you know, like, even though like with Sam a couple of times I kind of like couldn't see it. So I was like, no, I don't think you're right. But I'm willing to be ultra honest with myself, and I'm willing to kind of like try to go through them parts of my character and solve them. So yeah, you do carry, everybody carries traumas, don't they, from their upbringing and them types of environments, them scarcity environments, or them environments where there was no safety. It seemed like there was only threat, you know. But how do you then function as an adult where there's just a continuous stream? There's no break where you go, all that's gone now. That's just flowing into your adult life, into your relationships, into everything else. But if you can develop some of these skills and have some self-honesty, then you can deal with all these things just by shining the light of presence onto them, you know. And I think a practice like Jiu Jitsu or any kind of combat art is so important, because it's going to draw all them things out of you in a very safe environment. An environment like, who wants to go on the doors? I wouldn't even recommend it. At one time, I couldn't even walk into Asda on a Saturday afternoon because I stupidly worked in Bradford. So I'd walk into Asda on a Saturday afternoon with my wife, and I'd see plenty of people that I'd had situations with in the previous weeks. This is a serious, like, it's not recommended to anybody, but you don't have to. What we said before about your body not really being able to tell the difference. If you want to feel fear, go and compete safely in jiu-jitsu. If you want to learn how to better be a more calm and a more focused and a more grounded individual, train jiu-jitsu every single week, because it will shake you a little bit, and you will have to deal with it, and hopefully you'll have an instructor who can guide you through it. That's what I say about my gym. It's a forge. It's not meant to be easy. It's like there's some academies now trying to make everything easy because money's involved. So they're trying to make it palatable.
Yeah,
you
so
know,
people feel like quick development.
Development.
Yeah.
I'll give you a tag every so. No, my school, and I have them. I feel that would be better for my business if I went down that route, but I resist it, because for me it's a forge. It should be difficult. It should test you. It should shake you. But as much as it's a forge, and as much as it does that, we should have equal support on the other side. And that comes from me learning, experiencing, being able to better support my student through these kind of situations so that they can grow. You know,
well, that's the ultimate integrity in what you're doing, and I'm guessing that, well, it is the principles of the sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do the right thing. Like we said earlier, you could be an optional killer. Like, as funny as that sounds, you could do that. You know, let's say I'm not skilled in this at all. If I decide to get up and get a grip on you now, you could do something to me that could just wipe me out. You know, and that's the reality of the matter. And with that, it just brings ultimate integrity in what you're doing. So I think that is ultimately the message behind it all, isn't it? You know, to constantly do the right thing.
Yeah, without a doubt.
What are your goals in terms of, you know, being an instructor, and, you know, what are your next sort of phases? You know, you've gone through, you know, smaller clubs, building up to capacity, getting bigger spaces.
Yeah.
How does that evolve, and how does it look for you moving forward?
So for me, this was really about purpose. When I moved down to Birmingham, I trained for 5 years with Bradford Steamer, and what I was really looking for is, I was just desperately searching for some kind of purpose, some kind of achievement, some kind of fulfillment, some kind of happiness, and I knew I wanted to go into jiu-jitsu as a full-time career. So I moved down there. I thought I'd get my black belt, I'll open up a club, and over time I found my purpose, which is helping people. Really, we've got the kids program. It's every single day I get to have these kids come in, and I feel such a sense of responsibility. Like tonight, I'll have the tiniest class. They'll start at 5, and one of these kids are going to walk in tonight, and it'll be their first moment they ever walk into an extracurricular activity, and it's actually martial arts. And I feel such a weight of responsibility to make sure that that's a great experience, a safe experience, a welcoming experience. Whether they stay and they do jiu-jitsu, it's just that they feel confident to do other things in the future. And with the juniors, every single junior, I'm there as a constant support to be a fixture in their life, along with the parents and whatever else. I'm there as something that helps them grow, and I know that, I feel that, I see it happening. I see my kids go from, like, one of my kids in California at the moment, teaching and living an amazing jiu-jitsu experience. He's getting paid to do jiu-jitsu. He's competing in the Worlds. He's just competed at the Worlds. And he started as a kid who was shy, unsure of himself, quiet, and now he's 19 and he's living by himself in America, and he's transformed in all, like, just to an amazing degree. And we were a part of that. The club were a part of that. So that's kind of like the purpose, and I want to expand that. I want to have some kind of community initiatives where we can get some kids in. I'm just looking to open a CIC at the moment, and have some kids come in that wouldn't otherwise get the opportunities, because we have an amazing group of, like, kids, but it's facilitated by parents willing to come in and sit. Like, some of my parents will sit there mat side after a full-time job, 8 hours at work. They've got all sorts to do at home, and they're sitting there 4 nights a week for an hour or two, just facilitating their child's growth. And some kids don't have parents that are willing to do that. Some kids don't have parents that are able to do that. They just can't afford the extra 50 quid a month, or whatever it's going to be, 40 quid a month, or whatever it's going to be, to get the kids into martial arts. And they'd love to do that for the kids. And I want to have some initiatives where we can get some kids in, give them some sessions, a session maybe a week that's free, and kids that show some promise and actually want to take it a bit further. We'll give them some scholarships into academy. So that's probably like the next
Nice.
kind of goal.
That's nice. Yeah. In my opinion, I honestly believe every single human being needs to learn some sort of combat at some stage in their life. Are you on side with that belief?
I think the way the world is, and I think, if you look at the AI trends and whatever else, then we're heading towards an uncertain future. Maybe job losses and whatever else, and that what worries me about that is whenever you see societies going through lack of funding or some deprivation, that translates into violence. It translates into crime. It translates into all these types of things. So when we went through the 10 years of austerity, Tory austerity, then you know that that's going to rebound into crime. There's no two ways about that. And if you look around Bradford right now, you see it.
Sorry to interrupt you there, guys. We've got a massive announcement, Dan. We've managed to partner with Pure Sport, which is one of the most exciting brands at the minute in the UK, my friend.
That's it, built to last,
Mhm.
in it for the long run, as the hashtag says. All the similar sorts of messages behind the ethos of the brand, and it really fits in alignment with us. We know that they're athlete tested.
Even Lucy Bronze is using their products. She's a
does.
friend of the show.
The magnesium and the ashwagandha and all those other products that are related to recovery are super useful for me right now. I'm really feeling the benefit. The electrolytes is definitely the best I've tasted.
They're the best I've tasted as well, without sounding biased, my friend. But yeah, it just lines up with everything that we preach, mate. No shortcuts, just solid daily habits that actually make you feel better.
If you want to try these guys, use the Immerse 10 for 10% off at the checkout.
Now back to the episode. Sorry for interrupting you there. Crack on.
Let's go.
It can be a frightening place for a lot of people. And I think we're probably heading for a certain amount of time where that's going to increase, and hopefully it'll get better after that. But yeah, I think on a physical level, I think it's important. I think it's like, I think you get, they say that people even running takes them out of a victim state where some attacker would look and view them as a potential victim. Somebody who does martial arts takes them out of that kind of state, I think. And I think just on a physical level, I think it's so important. I think that, like, obviously, like, I'm a black belt now, but even as I say, a blue and a purple belt, I used to walk around and just not see threat anymore. It didn't exist for me anymore. I transmuted my experience to something different. Like, I don't see threat anymore. I go out in bars and stuff, I don't see it. It doesn't exist for me because I live in a different plane to that now. And people can get there, but it takes work, and it takes going through them types of, you know.
Can I say something that might sound a bit wild? I've had 4 sessions at your place now, but I feel the confidence internally from 4 sessions is like night and day. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. And I don't know whether that's delusion or not, but I'm walking around thinking, if you try it on with me now, I'll just fucking get you in rear naked choke, my mate. No, but it's had a tangible difference.
Well, even just going through some grappling sessions and getting physical as well. Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, it doesn't take much to have an impact, is what I'm saying. And I think I'd be an advocate for everyone getting into it, whatever level that may be. I'm going to bring my daughter down to your classes, by the way, which I'm really excited for that. She's only 4.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of just changing it slightly there, Craig, I've been studying the Gracie family. And obviously, if you're okay with maybe just explaining to people listening maybe a bit of the history with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or Gracie Jiu Jitsu, whatever you want to call it. If you want to maybe just introduce a bit.
It all started in Brazil. A Japanese master, Maeda, went over from Japan to Brazil and taught Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. I think he were kind of like Japanese Jiu-Jitsu stroke judo practitioner at a very high level. I think he went around Brazil and sort of were offering all comers. And he ended up stumbling across the Gracie family and started teaching them Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. And the Gracie family modified it into what it is today, which they expanded on the groundwork as such.
I think that's quite an important part there, just because I think people, it's called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the actual origins is Japanese.
It's Japanese,
yeah,
on, absolutely. Whereas Japanese Jiu-Jitsu probably had a lot of, and it did have a lot of the elements that Jiu-Jitsu had, so it wasn't wildly different. But everything, you put a set of rules in place and it alters the direction of anything, doesn't it? You know, so like if you put a certain, like judo, for instance, if you threw somebody onto their back, the fight would end. If you threw them onto their side, if they rolled onto their back and you got on top and you held them down for 30 seconds, the fight would end. So these rule sets kind of like restricted a lot of what went on the ground because the fight couldn't flow. So they didn't. The Gracies were they're in the rough areas of Brazil, in the favelas and whatever else, and these guys were like about what's real. They wanted to take this and better defend themselves. So they didn't care about point systems and whatever else. They just let it flow on the ground. And Helio Gracie and Carlos Gracie Sr. and a few other brothers and sons and what have you really took this and expanded it. And a lot of these guys weren't big guys. They were small guys who were needing to fight bigger guys, and they were heavy on leverage and all the wonderful things that jiu-jitsu is now. It really is that kind of thing where you can get a small, unassuming person and teach them jiu-jitsu, and they can really legitimately beat much bigger, much stronger people in a way that in any other martial art really isn't going to happen for the average person. You know, if you've got a massive guy and you teach somebody even judo, and you're a very, very small person, it can be quite difficult, you know. But say a rugby player or something, somebody who's physical, and just you get a very small person and go, right, go do judo on that guy. Unless you get to like a extremely high level. But in jiu-jitsu, you can literally teach somebody for a year or two, and they can really, really deal with somebody who's much, much, much bigger. So the Gracies did that. And then I think the real big explosion was when the UFC started, and the Gracie family were looking at who they're going to put into the UFC, and they decided on Royce, because Royce was a smaller, unassuming Gracie, extremely good, of course, and he just submitted everybody, and it just exploded across the world.
So they were like challenging different martial arts, weren't they? Like, come and have a go. We'll show you which one's the best.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the 90s.
Yeah,
because they didn't have a weight class at the time, did they? It were just you had
Any
all
martial
different
art,
types of people going in there. It were a bit like Bloodsport. Do you remember the Van Damme movie? It were a bit like that, wasn't it? Really,
absolutely.
You had loads of people, like some people wearing a gi.
Yeah.
Some people were dressed as like boxers.
I think a guy even went in with one boxing glove or something.
Yeah, it were a crazy setup, wasn't it? But I do remember this very small, unassuming guy just doing a number on everybody.
Yeah.
Wasn't Ixon meant to be the...
Yeah, but I think they said that
the one.
Ixon he was muscle bound, and he looked like a fighter, he looked like an athlete, and I think they wanted to show that jiu-jitsu was... They wanted to show what jiu-jitsu was by putting Royce in, I think. I think that was the reason why they decided on Royce. Because Ixon was the Gracie champion. He was the Gracie family champion. He was the guy.
So,
you know.
Hickson, I believe he's had, 450 fights, unbeaten. So this is the guy who I've like stumbled upon, who I'm kind of studying, and he's like your mentor was what is it?
Jeff Thompson.
Jeff. I feel like Hickson's like mine in a way, as well as yourself. But he were fighting like a Valetudo.
Yeah,
is that like so?
Valetudo, yeah.
Tell us about Valetudo, because that's a bit of a mad concept, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even know. I think that just the Portuguese term for essentially
anything goes.
Anything goes.
Anything goes. Yeah.
So that was just I think.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. So I think they kind of branched off from the UFC, but we're all the same sort of what MMA is today. And I think Ixon were over in Japan fighting in their organisations over there, and I mean, Ixon massively into breath work as well.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a crazy, scary practitioner. He went into all the... It's funny because, like yoga, for instance, when it started off in the East, was all about pranayama, was all about breath work, and the physical stretches was to aid pranayama. And then when it got packaged and came over to the West, they were like, let's get rid of this breathing stuff, and we'll just take the physical stuff, because that's the Western mentality, and it's more... I don't know. So
go, innit?
Yeah. So essentially, we've taken all these, like the samurai concepts of meditation, these types of breathwork practices and meditation and controlling the self and going through physical practice to get out the other side and create what they would call Budo, self-sovereignty, and all these types of things. Musashi had his first duel to the death at the age of 14, and then let go completely of violence because that was the journey of the person. And Ixon, you know, he really embodies that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, because you've mentioned Musashi, I'm going to give you this here, Craig.
Thank you very much.
This is an interesting concept. So my mate's created this brand called 61 Joules after Miyamoto Musashi.
Oh wow, I didn't even
That's
know.
weird, isn't it?
It's weird, isn't it?
My friend wants to remain anonymous, which is quite rare in these times. But he wanted me to give that
Awesome.
to you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Thank you. That's
And
awesome.
it's obviously based on Miyamoto Musashi.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
There you go, mate.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So Musashi was like the samurai swordsman, wanted the
Yes.
warrior.
Yeah.
And people like Bruce Lee studied his work and blah, 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 blah.
Well, actually, I think that scene in Enter the Dragon where he's having a confrontation with a guy on the boat where he's sailing to the island, and they offer each other a fight, and they're going to do it on a little island.
Yeah.
And he sort of like sends him out on the boat, and he's to come afterwards. And once he gets on the island, he goes, right, and off they go. Musashi did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's all sorts of these little things where Musashi did all sorts. He'd turn up for a fight with a staff, and they'd be like, "Where's your sword?" And he's like, "No, or he'd turn up late, and he'd use psychological warfare, and he'd be very innovative. It's something that I try to bring into my jiu-jitsu. Actually, I don't just try to run down conventional pathways. I think about psychology and reading my opponent's body language and restricting the breathing, and I try to understand my opponent or partner's incentives and intentions at all time, because then I can better predict what they're going to do. All these types of things, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Have you ever been tempted to use it in a bit of a negative way? So what I mean by that is, I had an experience where we were doing a little bit of an all-round session. So it started with some groundwork, wrestling, a bit of clinching and punching in the clinch and stuff like that, and then went to full stand-up striking, mainly boxing. Now, I'm not good on the floor, really. I'm all right at wrestling because of my rugby years.
yeah.
But when it comes to the little intricacies and chokes and all that sort of stuff, I don't really know where to go with it. So I felt like a lad were really taking liberties, because he were much bigger than me, heavier, and he knew what he were doing with it, and he really took advantage to the point where I thought he were really going to injure me. And I kept saying, like, mate, just chill out a bit, and he'd just go in again, bang, really go for it. So we stood up, and I thought, right, fucker, it's my go now, because I'm all right at this. And I did a bit of a number on him, because and have you ever had an experience like that, or have you been able to remain calm? Because that's something that I've had to work on. I've got a little bit of anger in there, that I've had to channel, and in that occasion I let it get the better of me, and I used it in a negative way.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
I've always I think I was very, very lucky to get Jeff very early. And before I got into martial arts, I was a volatile character. I had a really bad temper. Always saw violence as an option. I suppose I still do now. It's like I have red lines. It's like, treat me with respect. I'm going to treat everybody with respect. I'm kind. I'm conscientious. But I think I got Jeff very early, and it tempered that. And I've always been quite conscientious, and but it really magnified that sense of responsibility to gain control of my emotions, not to be too emotionally reactive, to understand and have some kind of separation from the ego. And I'm by no means perfect, but even on the door, I could use it laser focused. So I don't think I ever lost my rag on the door, even through massive provocation. but it don't mean that other people might not have thought that I did, because I would have turned on a huge amount of aggression like a tap and then turn it off. And I could do that at will. So
That's a skill in itself, isn't it?
yeah, and I think I am that way now. Even like if I get like, you know, I'll get into an argument with Sam or something like that. I'm very able just to separate from
in the living room. Tap.
Oh, I wish.
Maybe in the mind.
I'm very able to calm down straight away. I'm very able to separate, very able to emotionally regulate, to analyse where I might have to apologise or take some ownership or accountability. I think if I hadn't have had them, if I hadn't have had Jeff, then I wouldn't like to think how going into kind of martial arts and stuff, I probably would have had a number of them different situations. And I obviously have a school where I have a number of different people who come in, and I have to, I'm very conscientious to create an environment that if anything like that does happen, it's kind of dealt with in a constructive way. But also we have an environment where it doesn't kind of facilitate that type of thing. It don't facilitate people to take advantage in that kind of way. It's just, it doesn't live and breathe in that environment. Don't mean that it don't ever happen. It's not a perfect science, but it definitely, it don't feel like that environment. It's like when you do a podcast like this, you get the best side of everybody. There's cameras, there's microphones, people are going to see it. You're going to get the best person sat in front of you. They're going to present the best self. I get that in the jiu-jitsu gym. Don't mean like I don't know what goes on at home. I don't know how they treat their family or their employees or their wife or their kids. But when they're in my place, they act accordingly because the place demands it. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, it's like there's the code there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So in an environment where there's values and there's codes and everyone obeys to that sort of value, really.
Yeah, without a doubt,
Yeah, that's the mistake I made referring to that experience there. It was just a bit of a few lads getting together on a Friday afternoon and just having a bit of a throwdown. And then that's how it ends up. You know?
It can do for sure, because there's no kind of mediator. Who's setting the environment and the scene. And you know, we were speaking about psychedelic experiences at the beginning, and it's like setting matters. Yes, it's what kind of set are you in? What's the environment? What's the energy? You know, at our place, I hope that it's a beautiful energy. You know, it's learning how to be a trained killer. But in a nice way.
Whilst listening to jazz.
Exactly.
I love you, sorry, bye.
While we're back on psychedelics, I know there's a lot of studies, really positive studies around psilocybin for the mind. I'm an advocate of it. In terms of matching it up with a martial art, I've not delved into that sort of area yet, but I suppose for me in normal life it allows me to focus more, quietens down the noises in the head. How can it relate to martial arts and self-defense?
I mean, I think the microdoses, it's absolutely phenomenal in the sense of it quietens down the mind. It lessens them intrusive internal dialogue. And then that allows you to kind of, but on the flip side, it makes you more introspective. So you're going to kind of like think about things in a deeper way. But this kind of thinking mind's a little bit more quiet. So you shine a little bit more presence on things, and I think that's and then you have the bigger trips where it's almost like a kind of like symbiotic relationship. I started with a microdosing, and that really helped me personally delve more deeply into myself and my character and these types of things, and better help me maybe have more presence. And then with the bigger trips, Jiu-Jitsu helps with them for sure, because you're going to have to be able to surf.
Yeah.
Edibles, for instance, if anybody's ever had any sort of like space cake or something like that, they think that's almost. People say to me, "I'm going to go to Amsterdam. I'm not going to smoke. I'm going to eat something," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa!" I mean, like, I'll do 10 grams of mushrooms right now, no problem. You give me a space cake, and I'm like, "Whoa, like easy there," because that one will send you what people will call a bad trip. It's not a bad trip in my mind. It's a necessary trip. I once decided to go to a beach in Salou with my wife, and we're going to have a beautiful day. We're going to take some like gummy bears, and we're going to have a beautiful day on the beach. Well, yeah, we ate half a bag each. My wife was completely unaffected. I just went on this mad trip where
Unaffected.
Wow.
Yeah, her tolerance, yeah, she's got a problem. My tolerance, though, I was, yeah, it was just it were a beautiful day for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then everything started going a little bit like, ooh. And then all of a sudden, the Russian mafia was everywhere. There wasn't, of course, but in my mind, there were a guy who had this amazing set of tattoos. He must have spent thousands upon thousands, and he was sort of like sat with his back to a bar overview, like looking at the beach, and he had this sort of like girl like draped over him. He looked like a kind of Bond villain, and in my head he was the leader of this kind of gang. And then also I noticed every guy that was physically capable, and I sat on the sunbed, and I turned to Sam. I said, "I know this is going to sound like crazy, but we've got to move." I said, this is serious. They're scoping out victims here, and we need to move down the beach. And I said, "I know that sounds crazy." And as I'm saying it, I know it sounds crazy, but it feels so real. And Sam's like, "We're all right. You're just tripping." And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but no, seriously. And I think we got there like 12 o'clock. I didn't move off the sunbed until 6 o'clock. I was completely just
fried as well. Like,
yeah. But in my mind, it was so real. It's so real. But I knew enough to just trust and surf, and enough emotional control not to panic.
Yeah, that's big.
To flow through it, to surf. Because of all the jiu-jitsu and martial arts training, is just if the worst thing happens, it happens. I'll deal with it if it happens. Because in my mind, I'm going to walk home. These guys are going to mug me and Sam in a dark alley somewhere. I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens. All right.
Yeah.
And that ability to surf was so incredibly important, which I think I was validated because one of the sunbed attendants nicked my Ray-Bans. Actually, he swiped my Ray-Bans. I had to go over to him and get the Ray-Bans back. Yeah. And I'm like, I knew it. I knew it. Somewhere in there, I knew it. But yeah,
you still smelt it.
I smelt it. So I was like, Sam, I told you. But yeah, I think then like the jiu-jitsu experience of being able to surf and control and going through some of them important experiences on like edibles and stuff like that, where again people will say it's a bad trip. Now that's a necessary trip. That's like, can you surf?
Yeah.
Can you
not
control
panic.
yourself, not panic? You know, and then when you go through something like mushrooms, that's going to present the deepest and darkest stuff. And not in a bad way. Mushrooms, I found for me, is very gentle. It's very kind of like, I'll show you this.
Yeah.
Just have a look at this.
Yeah.
But like, I remember I took my first big trip and like, in the first hour and a half, you're kind of like, you're on an upward shot and there's like visuals and all sorts, and there's kind of dancing faces, all thousands, hundreds of thousands of dancing faces. And then
Where
one of them,
were you when you've had these experiences?
I did it in a very nice setting. It well, like,
I'm going to say, if anybody's intrigued by this, I think that's got to be something that's really embedded in it, that you feel that like you're in a good environment.
100%.
I think that's the thing about, like, 100%. For example, Amsterdam. You know, like you go in a coffee shop on red light, and there's people selling all sorts of shit on the street, and there's all sorts of shady characters walking around, and you feel extremely vulnerable if you're doing stuff like that.
And I've had that experience. I've stupidly taken something in Amsterdam and decided I was going to go to Rembrandt Museum and thought it would be a great idea to take some truffles, which is basically similar to mushrooms. And yeah, it took my ego and just took it away from me. But it took every little bit of armour that I'd ever built. I could, in that moment, but again, so important, because it showed me what I'd actually built to armour myself from all them years of being bullied and feeling scared and all that stuff. And I've gone through, it's not normal, is it? I start 19 and I go through combat arts almost 5-6 times a week for 20 odd years. That's not normal behaviour. I've armoured myself, and it stripped it all away from me. And essentially, like, my ego was walking naked through Amsterdam, and it's a city that is a beautiful city, but it's a city you've got to be on guard. You've got to be careful. It's like you say. And I went into a coffee shop and my card rejected. I used the wrong card to try and pay for something, and then I'm like, oh. And then I ended up settling in one coffee shop after going in a few different ones and having some horrible experiences of feeling vulnerable and feeling sort of like, yeah, it was definitely I wouldn't recommend it. But then I settled in front of this. I settled in they had some like beautiful chairs, and I got like sat down, and there were like a big photograph of this this woman with sort of like a headscarf. She was like Arabic, and she had like a cigarette or a joint in her mouth, and the whole painting were moving. And she was smoking, and it's smoking, but it was so geometrical patterns, and it felt so divine that it was one of the best experiences again I've ever had. And it was transformative. Yeah. It was ego killing. My ego died for a certain period of time, which, yeah, I'd never realised how much I'd armoured myself. Never realised it.
I've heard things about fighters, you know, paid athletes who were in combat, who have ventured down this path of psychedelics and stuff like that, and then they've never been the same fighter.
Yeah.
That's something that is probably, you know, it's bringing that much more of a sensitive side out to somebody, and like you say, the ego and the things that you equip yourself with, and to want to go to the wire, and you know, it's, you got to be prepared to die sometimes in the ring. You know, that's how serious
and the reason
it is.
Why are they fighting?
Yeah.
Them experiences are going to deal with the reasons why they're fighting. And when you deal with them reasons, and then maybe you're left without what's driving you to fulfill what's ever in there. Because usually it's like, I don't know, like for me, I didn't fight at that kind of level or anything like that, of course, but even just going through martial arts, I was trying to fix something inside me. You know, I was trying to fulfill, even when I went down to Birmingham, it was like I had a feeling of not being enough. So I was trying to make an achievement that in my mind, a jiu-jitsu black belt at that time, maybe there were 1 or 2 in the country. And it was something that was almost, it was maybe achievable. Like maybe like you do your whole life doing jiu-jitsu and you won't get it. It was that kind of thing at that time. And now it's changed, you know, it's still a very extremely difficult goal. It's going to take you anywhere from 8 to 12 years of consistent training. It's really difficult. But at that time, it had that even added element of it being so rare that I was like, I'm going to go for that. Because in my mind, if I achieve that, I'm enough in my mind. Where I grew up, that's, you respected fighters, you respected people, you respected, like I respected Braulio like beyond anything, you know. You were like, to me, you were a hero, still is, but you know, like I looked at him and go, wow, I want to be like that. And then as I achieved the different grades, I thought, you know, when I get purple belt, I'll feel okay. And I did for a little period of time, but I still felt this missing. And when I got the black belt, same, I felt still this missing. And when I opened the academy and stuff, I felt this missing. And I think I went through these psychedelic experiences to really like heal some parts of myself and finding purpose and stuff healed, doing things for others, you know. It's like, it's what Jeff is massive on, it's service, it's tithing, it's giving without expectation of return.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Like, I know we don't know each other that well. We've crossed paths a few times in life, but we don't know each other. But I do know from speaking to others how highly respected that you are from years back, and you might not have even felt that yourself.
No,
and I think that's probably a lesson for everyone, isn't it? Really, you know, to think that you are enough. And
absolutely. Yeah.
You think psychedelics is for everyone?
No, I don't. I think that it can be, but I think you've got to do the work. I think that I think even like with, say, if you take a lower end kind of like a milder psychedelic like a cannabis as such, it's mind altering. You've got to do it in the right way, in my opinion. It's like you can do it to recreationally, or you can do it spiritually. You can do it in a way that's about self-development, and it can be something that can, we all know it can be massively abused, but it can be used. I smoke a little bit of cannabis here and there, but I don't use it in the way that I maybe used it in the beginning, because I was trying to heal myself with it.
Yeah.
It all comes back to intention, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
What are you intending to do? And I speak to people about psychedelics, and I'll even compare it to something like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. People ask me about that. I'm like, if you're really interested, learn about it first.
Yeah.
Have a right intention from going into it. If you want to get into crypto, to, you know, learn about it, understand what you're getting into. Same with psychedelics. Same with anything, really. Have a long-term approach, and don't just fucking go, I want to get off my head.
Yeah.
Nah, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not going to end well,
totally
mate.
agree. I mean, I'd generally maybe start with like breath work or meditation. How are you just sitting with yourself? But I do think something like mushrooms, if you go into it with the right intention and you do some preparation, you do some self work, and that if a person wants to go down that journey, I think it can be for everybody. You know, I think the majority of people can benefit from it.
We can tap into it at the right time.
Tap into it at the right time.
Yeah.
But I think it's going in. I think it's having a bit of respect for it. You know, I when I first did it, I took a very small amount because I was very scared of it. I was quite trepidatious. It's something that I thought about for a long period of time before I did it, and I was like, I don't know. And I started off with a very small dose, and it kind of, the overwhelming feeling that I got from it is like, this is safe. It felt like I were in a position where it was kind of safe, and maybe where I had done it prior to that time, and it might have treated me a little bit more roughly. And I've seen people that it's treated a little. They've gone through a more rougher experience. They've had to deal with stuff in that type of state that they might have not considered before. That's maybe the state where I don't know whether you want to be presented with something for the first time. So I knew I had issues over my father. I knew my father left me when I was 12. I'm going to have issues over that. I've meditated on that. I've thought about that. I've had hundreds of thousands of conversations with my wife over that situation.
Have you done therapy?
No. I think that I'd counselled and had some really honest conversations about it and how I feel about it, and trying to understand. Like I'm big on understanding, like, causality. We live in what seems to me like a deterministic universe, where how much do we choose things? I'm not saying like that people don't have agency, they do, but also my father was probably just trying to do his best. Probably had past trauma that he hadn't really kind of dealt with, and maybe things that he couldn't get over. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not that it relieves responsibility, but it almost kind of like, I have to understand that he probably didn't offer that abandonment. He was telling himself certain things, his previous experiences. There's all sorts of causality that's pushing him in a certain direction, and the thing is, he was always going to be that kind of person to do that. Unfortunately, It's the flow of his existence, his biological cycle. And if I were in his place, Joe Rogan says this in his comedy events, if I were born as him, with his biology, with his parents, with everything being equal, I would make the same decisions that he makes. That's huge. That's massive.
It's a different level of understanding,
isn't it? Now that starts for you to have compassion and understanding for everything, and really true humility. Because essentially, if that's the case for everything, that's the case for the worst of the worst and the best of the best.
And also knowing that any bit of anger that you still carry is all on you, and that will manifest itself within you, and that's another level of understanding then, isn't it?
And it's the craziest form of self-harm by holding on to them things. And I think the mushroom trip, going through all that kind of self-counselling, and you know, as much as I can live on that plane where I understand that, truly understand it and see it in that way, I'm still a human being with an ego, and I still flip from understanding that my father never really had a choice and I would have made the same decisions, and then I flipped to, well, you know, he died recently, and it's like he died, I never had any contact with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of like made the decision a long period of time ago that I needed him to come to me with some kind of something that I had to respect him. He actually had a relationship with my brother, and they never had any kind of catharsis, never spoke about the abandonment, never apologised, never took any accountability, never understood. It was just, we'll start having a relationship now and we'll just move as normal. There was no respect in that for me. And I knew that for me, I couldn't have a relationship with him going forward without there being a kind of basis of respect. And I had to respect him at the least in making that step through that fear to try to heal, to try to acknowledge to all these hard things that I knew would be incredibly hard. He died without ever stepping through that little barrier of fear of fear of rejection, fear that I might just go, never would have done. But he didn't know that, but I knew that he felt that. And that's where the respect would have come from. But I had to go through the psychedelic trips to look at all that stuff, because it's all preconditioning, isn't it? It's even me thinking that is, I'm built in a certain way, and that's the way I think. But is that true? Is that fair? I don't know. I had to go through the psychedelic experiences to really examine this stuff and to get some deeper senses of healing. But yeah,
what would you say to him right now?
That's a big one, that.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
No, it's all right.
I don't know. I think I would give him. I think I would probably present him with my position, that I understood that I don't harbour any blame, because I understand that. And I'd speak to him from that place where I understand that if I were him, I would have done the same. And I see him in me. I see him in me. I see traits of him in me. And I'm not perfect, and I can't be, with that knowledge, judgmental, and I would probably just meet him as another soul just trying to do the best that they can possibly do, because most people are out there. Most people are just trying to do the best with what they've got, and you've got to see that in other people. So I try and meet him in that level, on that plane. And now maybe I need another psychedelic experience.
No, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I really appreciate your vulnerability in that there. It's a tough one. I think we've all got something that connects us like this. You know, I'm sure you felt extremely vulnerable then, but I can relate to the things that you're saying. You know, and we've all got a bit of dysfunction in as families and things like that, and things that we hold and things that we carry and that we don't look at and deal with. And I think a big one there, to sort of look at your experiences, he displayed a bit of cowardly behaviour, and you've gone complete polar opposite of that with every experience that you've had. You've stepped into like the most uncomfortable, like kind of fucked up situations and held your own and remained calm to prove your point and prove your worth. And I'm sure I'm a firm believer that at some point we'll meet again. I honestly think that. I like to live in that hope, and I think you'll come to some sort of reckoning there as well one day. I do think so.
It's one thing, like what you just said there, it's like it really hits home. I thank him for all that. His actual parting gift to me is quite funny. He was. I got a letter through after he died, and it said that I had to sign some papers because I might have been left something from his will. He had a pension and some other things, and it transpired that I wasn't left anything. My brother was left something, and I was left nothing. And at the time, it pulled out all sorts of emotions. All sorts of emotions and negative emotions that I had to sit with that were very uncomfortable. And I'm thinking that I'm going to have to sit with these for a long period of time, you know. And I didn't quite know how to deal with them. And the most beautiful thing happened because I was sat there meditating on it because it were wildly uncomfortable. Bitterness, for instance. The fact that my brother had only gotten in contact because he had kids and wanted him to know his grandchildren. And then the difference between me and him was us both being abandoned, my brother deciding to gain some kind of contact so he gets left a load of money in the will, and me not, out of hurt that he caused. And then his parting gift was to
potentially hurt again.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm sat with this whole emotion, turmoil, and I'm like, okay, let me digest it and meditate on it. And what I realised is he'd already given me the most incredible gifts. I'm like, I have everything that I have today. I have a beautiful relationship with my wife. I have a wonderful relationship with my friends and my student and my family and this amazing academy that I've been able to build, and other people have built it with me. And what we give out to the community and everything else, and how we've been able to impact other people's lives. And none of that, if that abandonment hadn't happened at 12, that is a major pivotal moment where my life just goes in completely different opposite directions. And all I just sat with was just gratitude and appreciation. And the nice thing with that is it's held to this day, where I don't feel any negativity or bad emotions over that situation. And my brother's going to get half a house, and I'm thankful that he's going to get that. And I'm not holding. There's nothing there now. It's just
you can't take it with you.
And I just sit in gratitude. Everything I've been given, and that parting shot from him was, I'm sure, was a parting kind of, well, you didn't come and see me on my deathbed. This is, boom, the parting thing. And it's like, thank you, that's amazing, because it's drove me to this realisation now. Gratitude and appreciation. And it's just, thank you again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a bigger gift than any sort of half an house or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
That's testament to the journey you've gone on as well, mate, I must say. So
thank you.
In terms of this podcast, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Awesome. I've had great fun. Thank you, guys.
But it's an absolute pleasure, mate, to have you with us today. And I look forward to continuing my journey at your awesome gym and under your guidance, mate. So
Thank you. I'm glad you chose
thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to come down to the gym or follow you, get in touch, how will they do that, mate?
We're on pretty much every social media. If you search Dreamart Bradford or me personally, send us a message. Everybody's always more than welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Keep doing
Thank you
what
so
you're doing.
much.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Respect. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Come here, mate. Cheers, brother. Thank you. Thank you, man. Cheers, bro.
Go in there, mate.